It gives me great pleasure to introduce what is most certainly the youngest speaker at SATURN ever. Owen is a first grader at Linden Elementary School here in Pittsburgh. And his favorite subjects is art, Chinese, and music. He's currently learning to program so that he can write his own games. But he also enjoys playing games, probably with his father, according to what we heard yesterday. So Owen has brought his father along for to talk about visual thinking and why that is important for all software designers. So, take it away.
Ready? All right, hi, welcome, excuse me, welcome everyone. My name is Michael Keeling.
And I'm Owen Keeling.
And today we're going to talk to you about visual thinking as a prerequisite for democratic design. But some of you might be wondering why is Owen speaking at a software architecture conference? Architecture, as it turns out, can sometimes be abstract and invisible, difficult to see. According to the tangibility rule of design, one of the tools that we have available is sketching, diagramming, to kind of make things that are usually invisible easier to see and share. Adults, though, sometimes have a very difficult time putting pen to paper and getting our ideas out. But kids are fantastic at drawing things. Really, there's when Owen puts his mind to it, can draw basically anything: characters, stories, abstract ideas. And I think everybody has the ability to draw. It's just as adults, maybe we forgot how to do it along the way. And I know I've certainly been learning a lot from Owen throughout this project.
Welcome, everybody. Everyone should have pencils and index cards. If you don't, raise your hand and my dad will bring them to you. Anyone have?
No, looks like you're good.
You don't need them because we're learning by doing. For our first activity, you'll have 60 seconds to draw a tree.
Okay, everybody set, and
go! Time's up, everyone.
Time's up, pencils down. All right, go ahead and please take your tree and show it to some of the people around your table, and you can kind of see what everybody else drew. And just out of fairness, here's what Owen and I drew. All right, so by a quick show of hands, did anybody draw a tree with decorations, kind of like Owen drew up here? Or yeah, hands up, sort of. All right. What about a tree with like characters or in like a context, a scene? All right, so I got a couple of those. Did anybody draw like a lot of details, roots or individual leaves or anything? Okay, so getting a little more detailed.
Who drew a mathematical tree or family tree?
Yeah, I assumed that would be coming from you. So lots of different kinds of trees, right? Lots and lots of different kinds of trees, which kind of brings us to lesson number 1.
What you choose to draw shows people what you want them thinking about. Pictures, command, focus.
Right, so there's lots of different things that you could have chosen to put on your tree, right? You could have been focusing on details, you could be focusing on shape or big picture, right? Or you could be focusing on a completely different kind of tree, right? We were not specific about the type of tree that you should be drawing, right? And in the software world, this is supremely important because we are dealing with abstractions, right? We want people to focus on the right details at the right time, okay? Too many details and we can get lost. Too little details and the same problem happens. So there really is kind of a sweet spot there, and when we draw, we have to be aware of that.
That's all nice, Dad, but how do you know what to draw?
Right, how do you know what to draw? So that brings us to lesson number 2, think about your audience. Right, so Owen and I have been reading these 2 books by Dan Rome called Back of the Napkin.
And blah, blah, blah.
Right, so all about visual thinking and different visual thinking frameworks. And one of the lessons that we took away from those books was what's called the 6x6 framework. Okay, so it's basically 6 questions that you ask and then 6 diagrams or 6 different types of drawings that you can use to help answer those questions. Okay, so we'll walk through that very briefly here. So the first drawing is a portrait, and it helps you answer the question who or what. Right, portraits are all about showing the characteristics or attributes of a person, place, or thing, like these 2 fine examples here.
I do.
That owed you, that's right. In the software world, it turns out that we do portraits all the time. So here's an example of two portraits, of a portrait of two patterns that are showing the characteristics of different quality attributes, right? So we're doing a comparison using these portraits, right? And this is a perfectly legitimate diagram, a perfectly legitimate sketch, right? We're talking about visual thinking, not necessarily drawing, right? This is very, very visual.
The chart answers the question, how many? Like this bar chart or spider web chart. Here's another example. This chart shows how much gold will a lucky miner find. Yeah,
so another really great way of quantifying, right, luck and gold, right? You can just kind of see that there's a correlation here. Really great chart. Maps show us a position in space, and they help us answer the question, where? What's this a map of, Owen?
How I get from Linden to Greenway Gifted School.
Right, and if you're a Pittsburgher, you can see right away there's landmarks, recognizable landmarks on here, right? So there's the PPG tower, PPG thing. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Yeah, thank you. You can also see the river, right? And coming from the neighborhoods to
You're
off script a little bit. I'm sorry, I'll stop improvising. They answer the question where, and maps are great. And it turns out that we have lots of maps in software that we use all the time. So the traditional box and line diagram is a type of map. We're showing where components are relative to one another. And what I think is especially telling about this is we even put legends on our maps, right? It's a map. We draw lots of types of maps. So here's an example of a context diagram showing us where the system lives in relative to different people or other systems, right? We can also do like concept maps, right? So showing where different ideas relate to one another and how.
The timeline shows a position in time and helps us answer the question, when.
Yeah, answer the question, when. So timelines are showing sequences of events, right? So such as this process diagram, right? So if we wanted to answer the question, when do we verify text? Oh, well, we do it after we extract it, but before we use it to make a decision, right? Answering a when question. The classic UML sequence diagram is another example of a diagram that helps us answer a when question, right? So this is showing us when different components might be called within a call chain, for example. Flowcharts are all about cause and effect, and they help us answer the question how. Right, so in this flowchart, if you wanted to ask, how do we make an automated decision? Well, you can kind of see there's a decision point after the extraction. We ask, is it accurate? If it's accurate, then we go ahead and execute our rules. If it's not accurate, we have to go through a manual repair step before doing the rule execution. Right, so flowcharts are kind of helping us to answer that question, how. And then finally, we have the multivariable chart, which is all about deduction and prediction, and it's helping us to answer the question, why. All right. So if we were to chart, for example, the cost to deliver over technical debt, and if we overlaid the developer happiness on top of that, we could answer the question, why is my team sad? Right? And as it turns out, as the technical debt goes up and as it becomes more costly to deliver, our team gets sadder and sadder and grumpier and grumpier. All right, so 6 different types of diagrams that help us answer 6 different types of questions.
Daddy, you've been doing too much talking. Let's get back to learning by doing.
Thanks, Owen. I think that's a fantastic idea. So for the next exercise, we call dinner at grandma's house. All right, and we're gonna draw this. And what we'd like you to do first is to take 60 seconds or so, about a minute. We'll probably cut you off short, but to make sure that we stay on schedule. But about a minute to create a plan. Okay, so usually you'd be thinking about a certain audience, but in this case, we'd like you to pick a question that you'd like to answer about dinner at grandma's house, okay? And use Dan Rome's framework to kind of decide how you're going to draw that. So go ahead and do that now. Just think for a minute and come up with a plan. So hopefully you've kind of gathered your thoughts a little bit, and you can probably guess the next step. We're going to give you about 2 minutes to draw your plan. Okay?
Maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, maybe, since you have an extra 30 seconds. But yes, 2 minutes. Go ahead and draw dinner at grandma's house, answering one of the questions, who, what, why, when, how. All right, so for this next step, we're going to need your help on this. We're going to give you about 5 minutes to...
Maybe a
to find maybe a little less, about 5 minutes to find a partner, and we'd like you to share the picture that you drew, kind of talk through it. We do need your help with this though, because we got to stay on time for this session. So if we start signaling to be quiet and kind of come back, we need you to please listen and help us out with that. So yeah, find a partner, maybe work in 2s and 3s, and share your drawing, kind of walk through it.
When we do this, that means be quiet. All right, everyone, we just have 1 more minute, so try to finish talking, and we might have cut you off for 30 minutes. We aren't sure yet, but just take 1 more minute. We may have cut you off a little short to
I think we're there, Ro. I think
talk
we're
to
there.
you.
I think we got it. So thank you for your attention. And since we've got your attention, we might as well roll on. Yeah, time is up. So,
Time's up.
time is up. And that actually brings us, what you just experienced was lesson number 3 that we wanted to share with you today, which is you can use visual thinking to help explore ideas through storytelling. Okay? So drawing a picture, it's not enough by itself, right? So a picture alone is nice, but really when we combine the verbal with the visual, that's really the superpower, right? That's the ability that really gives us really, really great communication.
Hey, Dad, what does all this have to do with software architecture?
Another excellent question, Owen, and some in the audience may be wondering the same thing. So as it turns out, architects are storytellers, okay? We're asking these questions all the time about the software systems that we design, right? So we might be asking, where's the technical debt? Or when do we need to start work on some module? We might be asking, how do we promote a certain quality attribute? Or maybe what is the responsibility of some component, okay? And we can use Dan Rome's 6x6 framework to help guide us in selecting the right ways to kind of share those ideas, okay? They come up all the time in software design. In addition to that, there's a lot of other ways that we can use visual thinking to kind of help within our team and in designing our software systems. And we took some inspiration from this excellent essay by Ruth Mallon on LinkedIn, but there's maybe 6 different ways that we can use visual thinking in addition to kind of answering those questions, such as helping us to think deeply about something. Okay? Sketching it out and making it concrete gives us an opportunity to kind of internalize and bring those ideas into our head. We can explore different ideas, okay? So we can actually map it out and chart it out, see what it looks like. Make these potential opportunities or all these options concrete so that we can start to explore them and try them out. We can decide, so we can put option A and option B together side by side, and now we have something that is comparable, right? A very concrete thing that we can compare to choose a path forward, which is a very powerful idea. Perhaps one of the most obvious and important ones is it helps us with sharing. Okay, so if you're talking to someone, it can be very, very difficult, or even through written word, very difficult to get the abstract kind of ideas from your head into somebody else's head. But if you combine some visual elements,
Like holding something out.
right, exactly. Some visual elements like such as drawing with the verbal explanations, it's a fantastic way to check to share those ideas with other people. Thank you. And that's actually the last thing. So checking. So
No.
putting ideas, making it concrete gives us an opportunity to test what we're talking about as well. Here's some examples of risk storming and question, comment, concern exercises that I've run with teams in the past. So what we're doing is actually getting the architecture out into a concrete way, and then we are walking through scenarios and just kind of visualizing where things are working or where things might not be working. Really fantastic way to find out what is still needs to be explored. And then finally, collaboration. So you can easily get a couple of people working on a picture together. Multiple people can draw at the same time, and then you can compare ideas. Working with other visually is a fantastic way to work together. And that's something that as architects we have to do a lot. So thinking, sharing, exploring, checking, deciding, collaborating. These are kind of essential things that we do all the time as architects. And visual thinking and making these ideas concrete is one of the best tools we have for doing these things. Right? fundamentally, we believe that design is ultimately a decentralized full team activity. Okay, so there's not really a world where a single architect from an ivory tower is going to be able to do all the things that need to be done to design a system by themselves. Okay, skills alone are not enough though to bring your team on board. You kind of have to have the skills plus the ability to kind of think, talk, reason, right? So these visual thinking guidelines or these visual thinking framework that we're talking about is a way to give basically a visual grammar, right? So that people can talk about these ideas and work together to design the system.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. All right, so today we covered three big lessons.
But you choose to draw command focus.
Think about your audience to decide what to draw.
Use visual thinking to explore ideas through storytelling. If you know all this, you get a big thumbs up.
And Owen and I have been working on a prototype sketchbook that we'd like to share with everybody. We've got copies down here that thank you, that we're going to distribute around. We'd like you to take the pencils with you. We'd like you to take these sketchbooks with you because visual thinking, everyone can do it, but you have to practice. Okay, so take these, share them, keep drawing, keep doing it, because we think it's awesome stuff. I don't know, it seems like the theme is shameless self-promotion. So I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and we're running a 20% off sale with the code there, SATURN 2019 Keeling, at the Pragmatic Programmer's website.
Buy my dad's book. It's really great.
Thanks, Owen. And that's what we have today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Oh, and for last, does anyone have any questions?
I think we're going to have to borrow your mic here for any questions. Yes.
Okay, so do we have any questions for Owen and Michael?
I'm curious from a process perspective, how did you prepare and how long did you work together to develop your talk?
For this talk, so we started off by using just traditional PowerPoint, which wasn't working with my collaborator here. And so we decided, well, this is about visual thinking. And so we decided to start drawing and scanning. And we have a stack of slides that didn't work, probably 3 times as thick as what this would be printed. So it was all drawing and scanning. Did you have a favorite part of the process?
My favorite part was drawing because there's so many ways you could draw.
And my favorite part was getting Owen to do all the really hard work by doing the abstract ideas that I was really struggling trying to figure out how to draw. How long? I don't know. It was like after work and after school for probably a couple days a week for 2 or 3 months. So.
Any other questions here?
Well, I question, so this is all about creating drawings. What about destroying them? At what point do you decide to throw it away? You have some rules of thumb.
Oh, interesting. Destroying drawings. As soon as it's not useful anymore. And that could be within seconds, or it could be within, days, months, years.
Seconds, minutes,
Minutes,
hours.
it could be minutes or hours. Yeah. I think for us, it's all about communication or getting the idea across. And I think one thing I learned through this process of just preparing this presentation was the first drawing maybe doesn't work, and so we're willing to, let go and keep trying.
Who else here has any other questions?
Here you go. There you go.
The microphone is for the sound. I'll do this one first, and
So there's a couple different types of pictures that we maybe routinely draw, or at least in my experience are more routinely drawn, component diagrams, things like that. What would you say is the most important type that people don't usually think of?
Yeah, sure. Here, use my. Let's do this one.
No,
Here. No, don't touch that one. It's really hot. Here, try this.
So the main thing that we usually use, it's often the flow chart. Like when we were doing dinner at Grandma's house, we would do a flow chart. So all those people who do flow charts, we only had 3 people who do flow charts. And so when we were doing the activity, that was the most rarest drawing. So when you when you're doing different activities or workshops, the questions, the drawings may be a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm going to step in real quick. Thank you. No, that's actually a really good observation, right? So if you just look around the room, you can kind of see things that people were intuitively drawn to. And I think that's a really good intuition. The flowcharts were kind of underserved. The timelines seem to be underserved. I think the maps and the portraits are things that we kind of naturally gravitate towards. But yeah, that's actually very intuitive observation.
Any other questions?
Okay, yeah, I have a question. So yeah, drawing is very great for people to discuss in person, but sometimes when you deal with remote team or remote office, sometimes drawing is kind of hard. And also in some other situation, for example, if you want to keep different version of drawings and send out for different people to review, it may be hard.
Yeah, this one.
So and this makes me think of something called architectural design records. Actually, somebody mentioned this yesterday, and after this talk, there's another talk about the ADR. So for ADR, it encourages people to put the design decision in a text file and check in the text file together with the code. It's kind of very different from this drawing. So how do you, ideal if people can combine this together, that's ideal, but it's kind of hard to combine. So what's your thoughts or suggestion?
Okay, so for the first one with remote teams, there's a number of really wonderful tools that are available on the modern web. At IBM, we used a tool called Mural, or Murally. At Lending Home, we're using a tool called Miro, which used to be called Real-Time Board. I don't know why they decided to change it, but they did. So there's a lot of opportunities for kind of collaborative, distributed visualization, more than what we used to have. I think even Google Drawing is another fantastic example of one, or OneDrive, PowerPoint. Like there's a lot of tools out there. With respect to ADRs, I'm a huge fan of ADRs. I think that's one of the big superpowers that we have as architects, is creating a decision log. And there's actually nothing in the rule book that says you can't draw pictures with your ADRs. If that's the way that best communicates the thing that you're trying to share, draw a picture. And in fact, if you go through the IBM ADRs, you're going to see, well, you're not allowed to, and I guess I'm not either because I work at Lending Home now, but if you had an opportunity to see them, there would be a lot of text-based ones, but you'd also see pictures of pieces of paper and pictures of whiteboards from the discussions that led up to it, or or within the ADRs themselves. Yeah, does that, great.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question from the corner here.
Hi, great presentation. One
you.
challenges we have is we like drawings, but the problem is when we do these drawings in kind of a sketchboard, if you have to make small modifications, either we have to scribble a lot or anything. So I'm just wondering, do we have any kind of tools that can help us to draw better? I'm just looking for recommendations.
Yeah, so from a documentation theory perspective for architecture, right, there's kind of a curve of kind of going from like uncertainty to being more certain about the diagrams and the models that you're producing. And I think the sketchbooks are really great when you're exploring in the beginning, or whiteboards are fantastic in the beginning. But as those ideas are starting to solidify, right, as they're starting to come together and you see the same drawings coming up again and again, switch mediums to something that might be easier to refine or easier to make small tweaks to. So I'm a huge fan of whiteboards in the beginning, and then moving towards, as the things start to emerge and converge on solutions, moving into a different medium such as a PowerPoint or a specific, architectural modeling tool even. Do you have a add-on, or you good? All right, last word.
Architecture can sometimes be a little hard when you are sketching it on paper, because adults, when they start to get into their 80s or 90s, they kind of start not to recognizing visual thinking, and that is why we made this conference.
That's right. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much, everyone.